Welcome to our executive interview series at the FedScoop Federal Forum, sponsored by Workday. I'm Wyatt Cash, and we're here with Andrew Christian, Senior Manager for National Security at AWS. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to start by asking, from your perspective, how can leaders leverage things like real-time data and sentiment analysis within a talent management system to really help them develop a highly functioning team within their organization?
Thanks for having me, Wyatt. So I think that oftentimes leaders are limited to either anecdotes that they've personally experienced or things that their teams tell them, or by metrics. But those metrics might be either because they're easy to pull or they're easy to create, not necessarily because they're the ones that are the most relevant. So right now with the tools that folks have had in the past, that's really just getting more breadth of those anecdotes and data points that come to mind are the best that we have to go off of. But in the future, being able to leverage new tools from generative AI or just better real-time data and sentiment analysis tooling will enable leaders to have better data to go off of for managing their teams. And I think there's a couple different areas where, as I think about it, it would be really helpful for how we look to leverage those tools. One would be in being able to apply those technologies to team and project health. So that could be either for things going well or things that need improvement. So using artificial intelligence to analyze patterns across multiple different data sources. So being able to pull things from a variety of tools that teams use and then have early indicators for is there signs of decreased collaboration amongst my team or an increased workload strain or things that might be at least indicators that allow you as a leader to better direct the team to, hey, maybe there's something that we can do here to apply more resources, or even, hey, I don't think that this project is likely to succeed. Maybe we're better off as a team just focusing our attention somewhere else. By the same token, we can look backwards in time at what has been successful, what's worked well, and that can help us build models that then give us recommendations for as we're working on projects. Hey, we've noticed that in the past when teams have used this kind of resource or have this kind of engagement, that's helped lead to a successful outcome. So I think there's a number of different ways that you can leverage that information in ways that weren't available before. The other main category, I think, as leaders, when we think about talent management, is how we can apply these types of tools to professional development and coaching. So being able to aggregate data points from across a team to be able to see early indicators of either things that need to be improved just from how the team is working together, to personalized recommendations for how you might be able to help with somebody's professional development, from trainings they might go to, matching them up with particular mentors. And those things can be a blend of aggregating data across how people are interacting with each other, but also some self-inputted information for things that people want to work on, and then providing those tools at your fingertips so that you have more resources rather than just the time it typically takes to prepare as a manager to try to help help the folks on your team in those particular areas. I think a couple things that are important to remember too is that it's augmenting but not replacing the leadership judge in this situation. And of course, whatever tools that we are going to use need to make sure that they're respecting folks' privacy too, not that is aggregating the information across the team.
Well, I appreciate your making the distinction about about distinguishing between data that's available versus what's relevant. It sounds like finding what's relevant is really important. That leads me to my next question, and you've touched on it a little bit. How else can agencies leverage generative AI and various technologies like it to drive more efficiency to advance their mission?
Yeah, and this is one area where I know our team in supporting national security customers is really excited, because I think generative AI technologies can really help impact those who are in a role where creativity is important. And I think sometimes within national security and defense space, from the outside looking in, we might not think of those roles as being creative roles, but I think that a lot of the time that's spent, the most valuable time, is considering, how do we look at the information that's coming in and determine what are the possible outcomes for policymakers? What kinds of things do we need to consider as we're trying to make sense of what's going on in the world? And generative AI can very quickly come up with brainstorming and expand the thought space for analysts, for operators, so that they have options to choose from in terms of considering, hey, how can I interpret all the data coming in? Not only that, but being able to connect kind of what we were referencing before, these disparate data sources to provide a better picture. It also very quickly can help kind of play devil's advocate, and you can ask these generative AI technologies, they provide the opposing viewpoint to what I've just laid out, or help give me ideas for ways I might be wrong or things I'm not thinking of here. So it can really accelerate decision making from laying out what are the decision points, so that leaders can spend more time thinking about what's the best possible outcome here, not gathering the data and trying to just make it through that first step of analysis. And then the other thing that I'm excited about, just from working at AWS and being part of the helping IT tools that exist for agencies, is also being able to really quickly, through generative AI, develop tools and applications much more quickly. So as an emerging need comes up, teams can really quickly be able to create something that can directly address that need, and then very quickly pivot away from that when that need changes. And the tooling just allows to cut down a lot of the previous tech debt muck that you kind of run into that it takes in order to just have that application be production and be able to be used by decision makers.
Terrific. Well, Andrew Christian, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share some of your perspectives with us here at the FedScoop Federal Forum. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Wyatt.